In 2013, a young drifter named Kai became an overnight internet sensation. Armed with nothing but a hatchet and his strange charisma, he saved a woman from a violent attack, and his bizarre TV interview turned him into a viral hero. Millions laughed, shared, and celebrated the hatchet-wielding hitchhiker. But just 3 months later, Kai was arrested for murder. The internet's newest star was suddenly behind bars, accused of beating a 73-year-old lawyer to death. From overnight fame to a 57-year prison sentence, Kai's story became one of the darkest turns in viral history. This is the rise and fall of Kai the Hitchhiker, the internet legend who went from hero to convicted killer. If chilling true crime stories like this fascinate you, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell. That way you never miss a case. Now let's dive in. Kai wasn't your typical viral star. He was a drifter, a free spirit who carried a backpack, a skateboard, and famously, a small hatchet. He claimed he had no fixed home, living from ride to ride, couch to couch, often hitchhiking his way across states. On February 1, 2013, his path collided with fate. Kai was hitching a ride in Fresno, California when the driver, a large man, suddenly lashed out violently. According to Kai, the driver pinned a woman against a utility truck and threatened to kill her. That's when Kai acted. He grabbed the hatchet from his pack and struck the man, driving him off and saving the woman's life. In that moment, Kai went from nameless hitchhiker to unexpected hero. But what truly made him famous wasn't just the rescue, it was the interview that followed. A local TV reporter stuck a microphone in Kai's face, asking what happened. What came out of Kai's mouth was one of the strangest, most unforgettable retellings in news history. With animated hand gestures, a wild grin, and colorful language, Kai described how he smashed the attacker with his hatchet. The bizarre, almost cartoonish storytelling, combined with the seriousness of what had just occurred, was unlike anything viewers had ever seen. The clip hit YouTube almost immediately. Within hours, it was spreading like wildfire. Memes, remixes, and reaction videos exploded across the internet. Kai, the hatchet-wielding hitchhiker, became a household name overnight. To many, he embodied something raw and authentic. A modern folk hero who had no filter, no polish, just pure chaos wrapped in a good deed. He was invited onto talk shows, embraced as a quirky internet savior. The world wanted more of Kai. But behind the charisma and oddball charm, there were hints of instability. His rambling, sometimes disjointed interviews revealed a darker, more troubled side. Few realized it at the time, but Kai's sudden fame was a ticking clock, one that would soon run out. Just 3 months after becoming an internet hero, Kai's name was back in the headlines, but this time for all the wrong reasons. He was wanted for murder. Just 3 months after his viral rise, Kai's name hit the headlines again, but this time, it wasn't for heroism. It was for murder. On May 12, 2013, police discovered the body of Joseph Galfy, a 73-year-old New Jersey attorney, inside his home. He was found beaten to death, his body bearing severe blunt force trauma. The crime shocked the quiet neighborhood. Who could have done this and why? Within days, investigators identified their suspect, the internet's beloved hatchet-wielding hitchhiker. According to prosecutors, Kai had met Galfy in Times Square while passing through New York. He alleged that Galfy had offered him a place to stay. But what happened inside that house became the centerpiece of one of the most bizarre true crime stories of the decade. Kai claimed that Galfy had drugged and sexually assaulted him, and that he acted in self-defense. But prosecutors painted a different picture, that Kai brutally attacked the older man while he slept, delivering a fatal beating. When news broke that Kai was wanted for murder, the internet erupted. The same people who had cheered him on just months earlier were now asking, was the viral hero really a cold-blooded killer? For several days, Kai was on the run. Social media lit up with sightings. Some claimed to have seen him at train stations. Others swore he was drifting through small towns on the East Coast. Police issued a nationwide alert, warning that Kai was considered dangerous. The chase ended in Philadelphia, where authorities arrested him at a bus terminal. The arrest was dramatic, the irony impossible to ignore. One of the internet's first viral folk heroes, now being led away in handcuffs, accused of a brutal murder. For his supporters, the story was devastating. Many argued Kai was misunderstood, that he had been exploited, that his version of events deserved to be heard. But for investigators, the case seemed straightforward. A vulnerable older man was dead, and the evidence pointed to Kai. The fall from grace was absolute. In the span of just a few months, Kai had gone from meme-worthy internet darling to accused murderer, and the world couldn't look away. But Kai's story didn't end with his arrest. What followed was a courtroom battle that exposed his troubled past, his unfiltered persona, and the dark reality behind the viral legend. Kai's arrest sent shockwaves across the country. But what followed was even more captivating. A courtroom saga that would determine whether the hatchet-wielding hitchhiker was a hero fighting for his life, or a violent drifter capable of cold-blooded murder. The trial began in April 2019, nearly 6 years after Joseph Galfy's death. In the courtroom, Kai, now older, calmer but still unpolished, faced a jury that had already heard of his viral fame. But internet charisma couldn't save him here. The prosecution laid out their case methodically. They argued that Kai had intentionally beaten Galfy to death. Evidence showed blunt force trauma to the head, consistent with a violent and sustained attack. Investigators found Kai's DNA in the home and evidence linking him directly to the scene. They highlighted that Kai hadn't immediately gone to police. Instead, he disappeared, drifting across state lines, posting erratic messages on Facebook. To the prosecution, this was not the behavior of a victim defending himself. It was the behavior of a man trying to escape justice. The defense, however, painted a very different picture. Kai claimed he had been drugged and sexually assaulted by Galfy. He testified that he awoke disoriented, realizing he had been violated, and that his attack was an act of survival. He insisted he was the victim, that Galfy, not him, was the predator. The jury listened, but cracks in Kai's defense began to show. Prosecutors countered that there was no physical evidence of drugging. Medical experts testified that Galfy's injuries were far too severe to be explained by a single act of self-defense. Instead, they pointed to rage and overkill. Throughout the trial, Kai's eccentric personality was on full display. At times, he appeared defiant, rambling, and unfiltered, traits that had once endeared him to the internet but now seemed to alienate the jury. The courtroom wasn't a YouTube clip. It was life or death. After weeks of testimony and deliberation, the verdict came down, guilty of first-degree murder. The decision shocked some of his loyal supporters, but for many, it was the inevitable outcome. The judge sentenced Kai to 57 years in prison, ensuring that the once viral sensation would spend the majority of his life behind bars. The sentence was severe, reflecting not just the brutality of the crime but also Kai's lack of remorse. For Joseph Galfy's family, it was a moment of closure, though bittersweet. For Kai's fans, it was the final nail in the coffin of a legend who had once seemed untouchable. But even behind bars, Kai's story didn't end. His case continued to spark debate, his voice echoed through interviews, and soon Netflix would bring his strange, tragic rise and fall back into the spotlight. By 2019, Kai's story seemed finished. He was convicted, sentenced to 57 years, and locked away in a New Jersey prison. For most criminals, that would have been the end. But Kai was never just another criminal. He was a viral phenomenon, and the internet never truly let go. In January 2023, Netflix released a feature-length documentary, The Hatchet-Wielding Hitchhiker. The film retraced his journey from unlikely hero to convicted killer, bringing his bizarre story back to the center of public attention. For millions of viewers who had forgotten the viral clip, it was like rediscovering a half-remembered internet legend. For younger audiences, it was the first time they learned that one of the internet's earliest memes had such a dark, tragic ending. The documentary presented Kai in full complexity. Viewers saw the chaotic, hilarious interview that made him famous. They saw the dark turn in New Jersey, the murder of Joseph Galfy, and the trial that followed. But what stood out most were the uncomfortable questions it raised. Did society exploit Kai's instability for entertainment? Was he truly a predator, or was he also a victim of circumstances beyond his control? Did the internet create a monster or simply uncover one? Reactions poured in. On social media, debates flared up once more. Some viewers sympathized with Kai, believing his claims of abuse should have been taken more seriously. Others condemned him, saying the documentary only confirmed the danger he posed all along. The film didn't change the verdict. Kai was still a convicted murderer, but it reignited his legend. Suddenly, Kai the Hitchhiker was trending again, a decade after his first viral clip. And Kai himself wasn't silent. Even behind bars, he communicated through letters and occasional interviews, insisting he was wrongfully convicted. At times, he lashed out at the media, accusing Netflix and others of twisting his story. In fact, in 2023, Kai even filed a lawsuit against Netflix, alleging they had exploited his likeness without proper consent. The irony was undeniable. A man who once became famous for his unfiltered, chaotic words now found his image and story controlled by others, remixed, repackaged, and consumed by millions. For Netflix, it was a smash success. For Kai, it was proof that even in a prison cell, his name still held power. And for the internet, it was a chilling reminder of how quickly fame can turn to infamy. But what does Kai's story really mean? Beyond the memes, beyond the documentaries, what legacy does the hatchet-wielding hitchhiker leave behind? The answer is more haunting than you think. Kai the Hitchhiker's story is one of the strangest chapters in internet history. It began with a violent rescue, a wild interview, and a world that laughed, shared, and celebrated his unfiltered chaos. For a moment, he was a hero, proof that even a drifter with nothing could rise to viral fame. But the same raw energy that made Kai unforgettable also made him unpredictable. When the headlines shifted from savior to suspect, the fall was swift, brutal, and impossible to look away from. His trial revealed a man torn between trauma and volatility, a life shaped by instability, now defined by a single horrific act. What does Kai's story teach us? It's a cautionary tale about the speed of internet fame, how quickly a viral moment can turn into a lifetime of consequences. It's about the way society elevates troubled figures without ever truly understanding them. And it's about the dark intersection of heroism, violence, and mental instability. For Joseph Galfy's family, the story is much simpler. It is about a man whose life was cut short, whose memory must be honored beyond the spectacle. For Kai, it is about a life that might have spiraled no matter what, but one that was amplified by a world eager for entertainment. Even behind prison walls, his name lingers, his meme lives on, and his story remains one of the most haunting examples of viral fame gone wrong. Kai the Hitchhiker will likely spend the rest of his life in prison. But his story, part cautionary tale, part tragedy, part cultural phenomenon, will remain with us as a reminder that the internet never forgets, and fame is not always a blessing. What do you think? Was Kai a victim of circumstance, or was he always destined to fall? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more true crime stories that uncover the dark side of human nature, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications, so you never miss the next case.